I didn't know anybody famous. I didn't have a famous last name. If I would have called Elton John and told him I was his son, he would have probably disagreed for various reasons. I'm dyslexic. I got left back growing up in a single household. Never went to college. I don't know. There's a couple, a little short sometimes. Somebody may say the color of their skin. Everybody would use one of those reasons of why they couldn't get anywhere, and that's a bunch of crap.
You grew up in Queens, not far from here.
Yeah.
Not from a wealthy family. What made you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place?
Where I grew up in Queens is Hollis, Queens, so that's right in between JFK and LaGuardia. Most of the people in our neighborhood, we only either worked at the airport shoveling bags or worked at the racetrack shoveling horse duty. And my father's from Trinidad and my mother is a hard-working African-American, and they always instilled in me to really work hard. And then my life happened and my parents got divorced and my father left. And I became the man of the house at 10, 11 years old. And I just never wanted to see my mother work that hard. And I always wanted to have my own. I tried to sell crash cars and buy crash cars and put them together and then go and sell them. I thought I liked that.
So and that wasn't your thing?
No, it really wasn't. And I had it all planned out. So if I sell X amount, I was 18, I'll be a millionaire by 22. Well, Mike Tyson has an old saying, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. So life punched me in the face, and I was working as a waiter in Red Lobster at 22, and I lost all my money. I just didn't have any passion.
How'd you find your passion?
I was selling hats on the streets of Coliseum Mall, on the streets of Queens, Jamaica, Queens. My passion was the first day that somebody bought a hat from me, and I said, well, why are you buying the hat? They said, it looks cool, and the hat was crappy. And they put the hat on, and they started walking down the block, and it looked like a ski cap, right, with like these two strings on top. And they started walking down the block, and I started seeing the little hat, swinging around. I was like, wow. That was my moment. And I was selling hats because I was frustrated that I felt that nobody was paying attention to hip-hop or loved this hip-hop community, and I wanted to dress everybody.
Were you really into hip-hop back then?
I was into hip-hop even earlier than that. When I was about 12, when you live in Hollis, Queens, you knew that Russell Simmons was from there. And Russell Simmons had discovered Run DMC, LL Cool J, and there were so many other bands from there, Salt and Pepper, Tribe Called Quest. So we would think that Russell would pass by somewhere. He knew he was in a car, so we would break dance on the streets, hoping that Russell would stop and say, oh my God, I found my next act. Come on. It never happened.
Okay, so you're hustling, you're selling hats. So what do you do next?
That's the problem with most entrepreneurs. How do I scale? Do I go out and take an investment? Do I leverage every single thing I have, or do I do my source of crowdfunding, which is ask a bunch of friends to pitch in? So what do? I go out and I leverage my credit cards, and I work at Red Lobster during the day, and I try to sew my hats at night and sell them on the streets and make more money. And I did that actually from 89 to 92, and I closed the company 3 times because I ran out of money.
3 times?
3 times.
What kept you going?
I had a really good supportive group of friends. My 3 other partners, Keith, Carl, and Jay, they came up in the game with me. Every time I wanted to quit, they wouldn't let me quit. I had 1 or 2 really amazing mentors around me that told me that was part of the process. I was going down to video sets watching these amazing artists that I had a huge amount of respect for. I was watching them perform. I would have done that for free. Right? It's like going today, if somebody loves Bieber, going to a Bieber set, watching them free. Yeah, and free food. Because I was pretty hungry, so.
That's the birth of FUBU.
Yeah.
The company grows into an international brand.
FUBU had grown into a large brand, a pretty large brand for me. We were doing an annual about 375 million. And we knew, though, that a normal clothing line, if you really do your homework, is going to be super hot for 5 years. All right? And then it's going to decline. We're not talking about Nike or Ralph Lauren. Those are the unicorns. So we had to start going international, and we started to concentrate on a couple of other brands to bring here because we wanted to use our distribution. We failed at all those brands. We finally, acquired a company called Coogee and started doing well with Coogee, and basically rip all the FUBU off and slap Coogee on it.
That's what you did.
Well, you know what? In a simplistic form, because we used our distribution and we kind of fashion recycles, and we basically used that concept.
When was the first time you felt I am successful?
I don't know. I'm 47 now. I must have felt that right around 40.
40?
Yeah.
It took that long.
I knew that I had a good amount of money, but I just didn't know. I didn't have financial intelligence, and I was I was spending it the wrong way. And I wasn't on Shark Tank. I was making investments, but they weren't working out as well as I should. And that's why I wrote The Power of Broke, because I made my biggest mistake when I spent $6 million on a brand called Heatherette that we acquired, a really popular brand in New York City. But I didn't activate The Power of Broke.
Power of Broke.
Yeah.
What's the #1 lesson you want people to take away from that book?
That you don't need money. You do not need money, or you don't need contacts to be successful.
What do you need?
You need desire. You need to know that you're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. You need to tap into a market and find a following. I didn't know anybody famous. I didn't have a famous last name. I would have called Elton John and told him I was his son. He would have probably disagreed for various reasons. I'm dyslexic. I got left back growing up in a single household. Never went to college. You know, a little short sometimes. Somebody may say the color of their skin. Everybody would use one of those reasons of why they couldn't get anywhere, and that's a bunch of crap.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe that. And business does not have any color. It really doesn't. If you look at the top wealthiest people in the world, if you look at 1,000 of the top wealthiest people in the world, over 60% of them are self-made men and women. That means they were all broke.
You're broke, but you have a dream. You have a vision. What's your next step?
#1, how do you immerse yourself in that industry, whatever the industry is? I'm sure that you didn't just, well, maybe you did, wake up and everybody said, we just want to see you on TV, we want to hear everything you got to say because you're just so smart and so beautiful. Then you have to come up with a unique selling proposition on whatever your product is. Your product can be your personal brand, your product can be a physical brand. After you research the market, then you should hopefully get some mentors around you, and then you got to start actually taking action, taking affordable steps, and trying to get that first interview, or write that first column for somebody, or make that first hat, or make that first cupcake, or whatever the case is. So it's step by step by step, and unfortunately, that may take 10 years. I started with my own money, and then I leveraged my credit cards and everything else. You should not, if you can get a loan, it's good, of course. If you get a loan from the bank, I'm not talking about from Willie around the corner at 125% interest. But you should always do it with your own money and or friends' money, friends and family money at first, because, you know, I always tell somebody, if you ask me now, and I'll give you, Damon John will give you $200,000 for 50% of your business. If you get up to $1 million, you need to now raise another $500,000. I'm not giving up my 50%. Now you got to give up another 20 or 30% of your business. Before you know it, you're working for all your investors. We see that a couple of times on Shark Tank.
For people who are thinking about quitting a job, how does someone know when the right time to quit and to really put everything into the new business?
These are excellent questions. I guess that's why you are who you are.
Thank you, Damon.
You know,
these are excellent answers.
Well, thank you. High five. So, honestly, that's a really good question, because a lot of people say, I'm going to go and burn the bridges. I'm going to go and just go balls to the wall, and they go and quit their job, and then they jump into this business. And that's not a good idea, because now you've just taken and made your job, which was $30,000, $40,000, $70,000, $80,000. You've now made that debt on the company, and you have to keep the lights on. What you should do is try to set some goals. And when I was working at Red Lobster, I believed I said something like, I'm going to put in 6 hours a week on FUBU up until 6 months. And if I get to this level, I'm going to then increase it to 12 hours a week. But they say that every real business or real product you have takes anywhere from 6 to 8 years to take hold.
And I think one of the keys of what you're saying is every step doesn't necessarily equate to a win, but you have to keep taking them in order to get to the end, to get to the finish line. And you're never even at the finish line.
No, most steps equate to a failure. It's the one that starts to crack that you realize. You know, I was out at a Global Entrepreneur Summit with the White House, and I saw President Obama interview Mark Zuckerberg.
You know, to me, entrepreneurship is about creating change.
People think that when you get to certain places in life, success, whether you get $1 million or you're on TV, you just walk on clouds, no problems after that. Mark Zuckerberg sat there and said, you know, people all thought that Facebook was just going to be for kids in Ivy League. Then they said, it's not going to work. It's only going to be for kids in college. Then, you know what? We're all moving to a mobile platform. Who's going to look at a Facebook on your computer? So, no, it's not going to work when it moves to a mobile platform. Or no, it's not going to work internationally. Mark Zuckerberg still hears no. Think about that. He's doing quite well. He still hears no. And you're always going to hear no. Always going to hear no in your career. But it doesn't matter. You know, if you think that you're onto something and you do your homework and you take step by step, you're going to have the best information that you need to move forward.
What's the first thing that goes through your mind as the entrepreneur walks out on set?
So when you see the person first walk up, they have to set the cameras. Now the person's standing there for about a minute, minute and a half. Now I see some people, and they have to just look at the sharks. So some people just look away, and some people are just really honest and go, boy, is this uncomfortable. And I like those people, the ones that are looking away and don't want to have eye contact with you. Not supposed to be a stare down. I go, I'm trying to hide something.
Right.
This is a gold digger.
And the show thrives in part because of that honesty, because you guys are really blunt in the way that in real business, because it's your real money.
Yeah.
How much, is there anything manufactured there, or is it all real?
That's all real. That is every single, we don't know not one single thing about the person. We don't get even a piece of paper on them. The shortest picture I've ever witnessed has been somewhere around 18 minutes. The longest picture has been 2.5 hours. People only see 8 minutes.
What's been your most successful investment?
Bombas Socks is really amazing. It's the sock company that has no seams in the front of the socks, and also every unit that's sold, one is given to the homeless shelter, because that's the biggest challenge in the homeless shelters is to care for their feet. And also Bubba's baby back boneless ribs. I think we can get that thing up to 200 million, and then Lori's going to have to eat some ribs.
What's the one that got away of all the investments?
I've learned that none. I learned that it's really the perfect shark meets the perfect entrepreneur and the perfect product. Because I've seen Lori do things with some products that I thought would never make it to market, because I was jaded. And you know, she has one little clip that you put your sunglasses in. And Tommy Bahama's been putting holes in shirts. I have been for your sunglasses. So I didn't think this was anything you could sell. She sold $8 million worth of this stuff. That's because she has an audience of people who've been buying reading glasses for 15 years. Mm-hmm. It's the perfect shark at the perfect time with the perfect entrepreneur and the perfect product. That's
something that does amaze me about a lot of products, though. You think there's already so many competitors, why would anybody enter that space? And then when they're popular and it goes well, it's always a shock.
It is. You know, if somebody was said to me in 2008 during, you know, one of the worst financial times in our history, mm-hmm. that somebody's going to come out and take a blanket and put 2 holes in it and call it a Snuggie and do $350 million, I'd have said, are you crazy?
When it comes to getting your money, what's the #1 thing a person can do to attract it?
They can show me that they failed a good amount of times in that area, and if they have the discipline and the drive to stay in that area, and they know all the things they shouldn't do now, I'm okay with that. They have to show me they have a proof of concept, meaning they sold 1, 2, 50, 100, whatever it is. We're going to replicate that and do it on a much larger scale. I have to like them.
You have to like them.
I have to believe that we run by the same ethics. If they are, let's cut throats, or let's when everything's good, we're here. When everything's bad, we don't care about the people around us. That's just not something I want to do.